Hi, this is Harry from HAC Enterprise. The purpose of this video is to introduce you to the AutoWorld and Johnny Lightning extraction inventory tracking mechanism for Excel spreadsheets. Now, don't be concerned if some of the details are a little different than the spreadsheet that you have received, because as we add more and more releases to the various spreadsheets, some of the fine print will change, but the overall function is identical. Now, what does the spreadsheet look like and what can you do with it? Well, here's the one for AutoWorld, and if we click on the Johnny Lightning, you will see this is the spreadsheet for Johnny Lightning cars. In this case, for all the cars that were released, which include the years 2003 through 2007. Flipping back to the AutoWorld extractions, you will see that the spreadsheet includes photographs, a variety of different color backgrounds, some examples of the packaging, and some numbers. I'm going to explain this and then show you how you can enter your data into the spreadsheet. Now, this particular spreadsheet is an example of data that's been filled in. Your master spreadsheet will be blank, at least in regards to the quantity fields. The estimated values for mint in box will be pre-populated, but you will be able to change those as market values change, and you can utilize your own discretion as to what they should be. But for your convenience, these have been pre-populated based on my experience in collecting, which now is over 50 years. Okay, so what do you see? You should see an example of every single car that has been released up to the point that the spreadsheet is covering. Now, this also includes what the packaging should look like, which, as you know, in the collectible industry, packaging is very important, and make sure you have the right car in the right package, the right chassis, the right color, everything. So all the variations are included in this convenient and powerful tool, which is at your disposal. Alright, what are some of the basic visual elements? Besides the photographs of the cars, you will see code and sequence, which is essentially the AutoWorld numbers, and the sequence within each release as to what each car represents. So, for example, in this area we have the AutoWorld release 117, and the Camaro Trans Am in red was the first one in that release. This is version A, and the J means jewel box. I'll explain that as we go further. As you go down the spreadsheet, you will see that the 117 release B version was blue and purple, and there's the photograph and what the packaging should look like. And over here you'll see more details on what the packaging should be for those releases. You'll also see that the color changes from release to release. So, for example, the release in round 2 is in gray background, and the release for 101 from round 2 is got a pink background, and as you go through here you see that they'll change. Blue is the AutoWorld exclusives or some other special, show specials and so forth. Now, what should be listed for you also is the release number. For example, AutoWorld's release 115 was technically release 2, first laps in this particular case with the Ghost Blue cars. They are released in the clamshells. Hence, what you'll see in the detail is the packaging, the release year, the release number. So as we go through these, for your convenience, they're broken up for every single release. The color background changes, and because this is released through 25, you'll actually see here is in 2018 release 25, which is on blister cards, the silver screen machines. Okay. So you see a quantity field, which is simply you'll populate the number of cars that you have of that particular release and model, and you will also have the ability to put a wish list, or say a W. Now, putting a W in this field does not impact the inventory, but you can do a quick glance or a report as to what may be on a wish list, just in case you were going to a trade show or wanted to give somebody a Christmas list or a birthday wish list or so forth. Keeps track of what you may want to include in your inventory but don't yet have it. The quantity field will allow you to put any number, and as you put a number in here, you'll see that you can put more than one. So this will impact the inventory, and I'll show you how. But before we do that, let's just make sure you're familiar with the fact that the vehicle description is essentially what the catalog description was for each one of these releases. Now, the release and packaging notes, you've already seen a bit of a heads up on this, but it should give you the year that the subject vehicle was released, the release name, how it was packaged, and of course the actual product number for each release. An example of packaging should be presented here, and you'll see that for every single release there is some example, many of them as a matter of fact, for all of the releases, so that you can keep track of how they're supposed to be presented. It's important to collectors down the road. Here's a key field. Now, they're pre-populated. The MIB, or mint in box value, has been placed by me based on my 50 plus years of experience, and you can see in other videos that I've built database information that's got thousands upon thousands of completed auctions for multiple brands, multiple values, multiple cars, and so forth, knowing full well that these values change over time, which is a good time to introduce the fact that there are some numbers indicated in black and there were some numbers indicated in red. Any number in red is a field that you can edit. Any number in black is a formula, and for your protection and to correct or at least avoid any errors, these are copy protected so that you can't inadvertently write over them and then essentially destroy inadvertently the integrity of the spreadsheet. So let's just go to the first one here. Suppose we had this Dodge Challenger and we actually had two of them. You would click on that field, put the number 2, and then if I was to arrow right, you will see that it actually went immediately over to the estimated value. Now, the estimated mint in box value is a field that you can overwrite, but until you are comfortable with making these changes, even though they're pre-populated and you can edit them, we suggest you leave them alone for a while. But we also know that these values are volatile, especially as time goes on. Some of the values actually will climb and some of them may stay the same, and for some unique purpose they may actually go down over time. Collectors will understand what all that means, but for your convenience they're pre-populated. Now, the $70 that's listed here is actually the result of that you had said, I've got 2 of these. The estimated mint in box value would be $35. 2 of them equals $70. Let's go back and change this to 1, and I'll come over here and see that when I hit enter or scroll, that changed to $35. Now, if I change that mint in book value to, say, $40, you'll see that that number also changed. So it's a formula driven by estimated book value and the quantity that you have on hand. Let's put this back to 35. Okay. You'll also see as you put these numbers in, the system automatically uploads and changes the numbers presented by way of count of unique vehicles, which is the number of vehicles that you have in your inventory that excludes repetitive information. You'll see that some of these numbers are more than one. The sum of owned cars is taking into account all of those. But what's important to note here is that if you indicate a wish list, such as, we'll put a W here, the numbers actually reflect that. Now, I took one away from the inventory and turned it into a W, and what it indicated was the 230 became 229, meaning that that car is no longer in inventory because you have it on your wish list as if you never had it. And the sum of owned cars, because you no longer own it, went from 251 to 250. We'll put that back to 1. And now we're back to 230 and 251. The purpose of this is to demonstrate that you can indicate an item that you have on your wish list. You can actually use an S for selling or T for trading as well. Alright, so it's a very simple process. You will very quickly see that there are certain areas in the spreadsheet that you can't actually impact. And like I said, as I am scrolling left and right, you can see the cursor is only going to those areas that have got the quantity field or the MIB field. As I enter data, I actually will have the numbers going down. So let's just say that I'm going to take away some of these numbers. I hit the delete key and I hit enter. I hit delete key, enter. And what you can see is the scrolling down. Now, as I'm doing that, the count of unique cars has changed and the sum of owned vehicles has changed. Also, the total inventory value has changed and the average per car may have changed as well. So the spreadsheet is such where that you will always have a snapshot, providing you put the data in, for exactly what you have in your collections. Now this is actually very important because as you add more and more cars to your collection, you'll end up finding out that numbers get rather large, and technically it's a family asset, and as the numbers get very large, in the case of the data that's entered so far, there's $9,400 worth of collectible slot cars in here, of which you've got 227 unique vehicles and a total of 248 owned vehicles, averaging $37.90 a piece for a total of $9,400. Now, as you change the MIB values over time, these numbers will change as well. Just a quick glance. The form number is for purposes if you contact HAC Enterprise with any questions or any notification of concern, error, or so forth. I might ask you what the form number is. In this case, the form number indicates it's the AutoWorld extraction inventory as of 9/18/18. That means all the data is relevant up to September 18th, 2018. And as you know, releases of cars will necessitate new release spreadsheets, and those form numbers will change to reflect that. The name of the authorized user will be pre-populated by me, representing who purchased the subject spreadsheet. It may include a phone number or an email address as well. Another quick glance here is that as of September 18th, 2018, there is actually 423 known individual cars that have been released by AutoWorld. In the case of the Johnny Lightning extractions, that number is 69 total cars. So there's a lot of cars that are covered by this spreadsheet, almost 500 in total. Okay. When you look at the bottom here, you can see that you can go to the different brands, but you can also take a quick look at instructions. There are some various changes that may be seen in the photographs because some of the pictures may be a little outdated, but they are essentially representing the exact same spreadsheet and their use. But an explanation for all these fields and how they're used is included. So let's look at an example of the PDF, or it's a digital output for the inventory for AutoWorld slot cars. You've filled in all your data, and let's say that you wanted to report that data. Let's show the tabs, and we'll do a file, print. Okay. Now, I have already pre-configured print output for you, so that if you wanted to print to a PDF file, you can certainly do that, but you can also print to your own printer. And the only reason I suggest PDF at first is because, number one, this includes the entire spreadsheet, which with release 1 through 25 of the AutoWorld, you'll see is many pages, in this case 39 pages, and all the way to the bottom of the spreadsheet. This is a good time to talk about the fact that not only are these catalog cars, but also the set only cars, and not only are the cars and their release dates and everything presented in the spreadsheet and whether or not you own them, there's also a picture of the sets of which they came from. Now you may want to print off a PDF output rather than paper, because 39 pages it consumes a lot of ink, but you certainly can do that if you want to. But this would provide an excellent resource for you, almost like a catalog of all the cars released, so that you can tell at any given time what actually you have versus what you might want to have. What's interesting to show here is that the AutoWorld company changed their packaging from jewel box displays to blister packs with the release 20 of their extraction cars. Personally, I like jewel box displays, but the blister packs must save them money or what have you. Anyway, you could indeed print this off if you wanted to. Either way, you can get a snapshot at any time. The same is true of the Johnny Lightning cars. So if we put some numbers in here, and I'm going over to that first car, and let's say I have one of those, and I don't have that, and I don't have that, but I've got 3 of these, and I have 1 and 1 and 1, and then as we go through here, you can see how quickly you can put information in, and as you do, you'll see that the numbers change automatically in the count of unique cars owned, in the sum of the cars, the estimated mint and box value of considering them all mint. The more complex spreadsheets, such as the AutoWorld, the Aurora T-Jet inventory tracking mechanism, there is actually a lot of detail with regards to condition codes and whether or not you have packaging, and that's a much more complex spreadsheet. I did include a video for you to get a quick overview as to what that is, just in case you are an Aurora collector. And that's true of the AFX cars as well, and some of the other vintage cars out there from Tyco, is that condition becomes a bit more important. A lot of the AutoWorld cars, most people that have them that are collectors actually keep them in the packages. And you can print these off as well So if I wanted to print show a preview, you'll see that if I was to print off a paper copy or a PDF output for Johnny Lightning, this is what you would have, and there are 7 pages of print that would be here. But the same features exist with the other spreadsheet or the other brands. Okay, let's go back to the AutoWorld. I think that's it for a quick overview. If you have any questions, by all means contact Harry at HAC Enterprise. Probably best to do it via email, but if you go to my website, you certainly would see how you could reach me via cell phone, and I'll gladly answer your questions. Now, there are new releases from time to time, as you know. So there eventually will be a release 26 or a 27 or a 28 of extraction cars, and of course I'll be updating the spreadsheet from time to time. So far we're through release 1 through 25, which makes up 423 total cars, including 50 some odd set only cars. Now, I do have a photograph of every known color combination, and that includes the eye wheels. If not, you would see a image coming soon picture, but in this case I've got them all, including the recently released 25 silver screen release for the Firebird cars from Knight Rider, as well as Smokey and the Bandit. Now, the set cars are listed here. And this is for the extractions. There are some sets that came with 4 gear and extractions, and they're accounted for appropriately in the appropriate spreadsheet. And at least one photograph of what the box looked like. And the cars are all here. Okay, so there you have it. Any questions? Get in touch with me. Good luck and happy slotting.